Welcome in, Andrew. How you doing today?
Good, sir. How are you?
Doing good. Good to
Hanging in.
see you.
Yeah, you as well. So yeah, the market's been kind of throwing us a wrench these days, huh?
So we're dragging. We bumped up to 75K. It was last week, maybe mid this week. Now we're back down 69,000, 70,000. Who knows where we're
Yeah.
going to go?
It's funny. A lot of the sentiment I'm hearing when I go to like the Bitcoin meetups and stuff, and kind of listen to the Bitcoin sort of podcast sphere. And I don't listen to everything, but I kind of have a good sampling. It's like this the whole thing with Jane Street. Like, oh,
Mm.
there was this action taken against Jane Street, and suddenly the 10 p.m. Bitcoin dump isn't there. And wait a second, do you think maybe Bitcoin price is like affected by all these derivatives, like the ETFs and these other things? And it's like maybe it's gotten woven into the traditional finance market in the same way other things have that allow for paper Bitcoin. You sometimes will hear like the summer of paper Bitcoin, which I think was last summer, right? Which is kind of when a lot of the ETF took hold. And and it's so funny. We haven't really spoken about it much, but I kind of have studied sound money for years. But then that kind of leads into understanding precious metal markets, and it's the same things that the gold and silver market people have been saying for decades. It's like, it's manipulated. We can't ever get a break on the price. As soon as it runs, it gets slammed back down. So they start attributing all these external malevolent forces to the market, right? And the story kind of goes that way. And if you look at the silver chart, I don't know if you saw it, it was like up to 120
Mm.
and then it got slammed down like 70. I don't think it's down in the 70s, 80s. Anyway, it's like had had it just kind of creeped up to this same point it's at now without that spike, everybody would be like, "Oh, it's great. It's like
Yeah.
finally gaining traction." It's like, but the sentiment is always the opposite. It's like, "Oh man, it's like if we could only get back to that high." And I think what's interesting to me is that same sort of those rationalities and sort of like kind of emotional highs and lows and like, oh, if we could just get back and show the world that our asset is the one that really is going to shine, whatever one you rally behind. It's like the same sort of mentality is kind of creeping into the Bitcoin space too.
Mm.
So like now we're down, I don't know, in these like lower levels. It's like, well, you don't have to go back that far, and that's where we were anyway, right?
Yeah.
It's like a year ago, it's like we hadn't seen 120 peak, so everybody was like, it's kind of what do they say, crab crawling. It's going
Yeah.
sideways. It's kind of like in this like stuck in this range, and everybody uses all these like anthropomorphic terms. It's like
The
it
Bart
wants to get
Simpson.
out, it wants to break out. It's now it's that's beaten down. So I'm like, yeah, it's crazy, but I think it's also a sign of maturity. Like as an asset class, it's now the thing that everybody wanted, which was like legitimacy, right? It's like Bitcoin is like, man, if only the financial world like took us seriously,
Mm.
if only big companies saw its value and said, wait a second, we want some of that. If only countries, even small countries, like saw how important it was and like started building sovereign wealth funds, or maybe like the country of Bhutan like started mining it, or a country of like El Salvador, it's like make it a a currency. uh then we would start getting credibility. It would get to where it can't be like squashed. It's like it'll have more momentum, etc. Well, now we've got a lot of those things. We're kind of on the road. So it's kind of funny. It's like you can't like wish for something and then not get, and when you get it, be too upset about it. Because now the counterbalance is always like, oh well, it's more complicated and the pricing is now influenced by these other factors. Well, those other factors are the factors you invited to the party, right? And wanted, like, you wanted that legitimacy, you wanted like regulation, you wanted clarity, you wanted like, the the way governments and institutions and stuff at the edges all viewed this to be more understood and not the Wild West. Well, we're getting there. We're getting to where maybe this touches on uh, the sovereign, or not the sovereign, but the reserve sort of topic. What was the reserve topic coming up today?
Yeah, so it does touch on a little bit with the North Carolina introducing the Bitcoin reserve bill.
Yeah. So we've
So
seen this in a few states now, right?
yeah, North Carolina
Like,
is another state. So this is a bill that's going to establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve for North Carolina. It passed its first reading on March 19th. Now, states are going to save in Bitcoin. What's that going to do for the people? I guess the people in charge, the governments, they'll have more funds to do
mhm.
roads and public parks and things like that they're going to do, trash trucks, whatever they're responsible to do. Their own personal salaries can increase, the people that work for the government. But I really
Mhm.
think we got to get out of the mindset of the dollar, valuing Bitcoin in the dollar, everything having a dollar price. I know it's extremely hard because the dollar's been around forever, but if we
Yeah.
keep valuing it in the dollar, then it doesn't make that much sense to me because the dollars are free, they're unlimited. So everything's going to keep going up in the dollar. Why don't we just value it in Bitcoin, which has a 21 million cap limit created by energy? Everyone could see how many there are. So it's probably going to take a long time, though, to stop using the dollar or stop valuing things in the dollar.
Yeah, I think about this a lot and have studied it, and it kind of, in my mind, it goes back to how any new way of thinking about something is just hard.
Super hard.
And you know, you can look at, like, oh, we should think about light as a particle versus light as a wave. Okay, well, that's takes some serious kind of getting your head around. But you go back to like Galileo and Copernicus, right? It's like, yeah, I mean, imagine in a world where, like, well, the Earth's the middle of everything and all this other stuff kind of spins around us. And somebody standing up one day and say, wait a second, actually, I think, in fact, I'm pretty sure that we're one of those spinning things, and we're spinning around that other thing called the sun. And that alone is like heresy, and it was viewed as such, and it took a long time before people came around to the idea, well, wait, actually, when you think about it that way, a lot more stuff fits, you
Mhm.
know uh but it was hard, and it takes generations. And I don't know, I probably showed this book, but this is like one of my things, that my go-tos. It's a book by Thomas Kuhn, and it was written, I think, in 61.
I have it.
And
I have it.
it's the structure of scientific revolutions, and it's like, yeah, it really
I
lays
haven't read it
out
though.
a lot of historical evidence for just how hard things thinking about things on. I mean, going from like steam driven economy and coal and steam to electric and gas in itself was a big, I mean, the whole telecom, the fact that the telecom revolution like compressed distance effectively. I mean, you could work with other people in other places, quite effectively. And that was a big shift. And and these things typically, the TLDR of it is, uh these new types of thinking take generation turnover. Like, people have to kind of come up in an age where at least the new way of thinking is part of the discussion, so they're not so grounded in the old way of thinking that they can't give it up. And then after one or two generation, and if you think of generation as 20 years, that's like 40 years before, and enough people that are
Man,
stuck on the old system like die effectively. So,
Yeah.
and one of the problems is that the people that are kind of in charge of making the rules, the laws, and stuff that everybody else, they don't tend to be the 20-year-olds. They tend to be the 60, 70, 80-year-olds, right?
Yeah. And they don't like to
So,
retire. They go
and they
all the
don't like
way
to
until
retire.
they're dementia patients.
That's right. So, so thinking in terms of Bitcoin is tough, and I think, you know, I'm like you. I wanted to go from fiat to Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Like, man, we just need to like fiat to Bitcoin. How's that going to happen? Well, fiat's got to crash. It's got to crash hard. Take everything out. Like go to like rubble, like smoldering, like apocalypse, and then like the phoenix will rise of Bitcoin, and that'll like ever be glorious. Yeah, that's probably not going to happen. So it's like
No.
the new question became, it's like, well, if this is inevitable, or at least in our opinion, this is like the strongest currency or asset base, how do we get from here to there? How do we get from a world where everybody thinks in fiat dollars and operates and like makes decisions based on fiat dollars and what the costs of things are and what they think they might be able to earn by this sort of that sort of decision, et cetera, to thinking about things in terms of denominated by Bitcoin? Like, it's too much of a jump mentally.
Mm.
And I think this is where the more I study it, the more I'm kind of not a big fan, but I think the stable coin gets us there, not in the swapping out the denominator so quickly, but at least let's think about trust and our relationship with other entities that we have to deal with. And the introduction of a broad use of stablecoin will get us kind of part of the way, right? Which is like, wait a second, you mean I don't have to deal with a bank? I don't have to deal with a credit card. I don't have to deal with any other intermediate institution to deal with stablecoin. I'll just like pull up my wallet on my phone and pay with it, just like I do with Apple Pay or with, with a credit card, or, swipe this or swipe that. So it fits that modality a lot more concisely. And that's kind of where people's comfort is. But once you kind of are used to that, and you don't have to trust, a bank to be in the middle to do stuff, and maybe you see things like maybe you start getting paid in stablecoin, right? And like you see it hit your account like instantly, and or you remember the day when you ever take a check to a bank branch to deposit it, and it's not your bank branch, and what
Yeah.
do they say? It's like, oh, you can deposit it, but it's going to take 5 days,
Yeah.
business days to clear. It's like, well, what's that? Well, that's because they don't want to like lose to the other bank. Like, they want to be able to reverse it. So the traditional system that has all these like these kind of time delays that are designed to like, make sure that they don't get screwed, but yet you get screwed because wait a second, I got to like pay my rent in 2 days. Like, yeah. So anyway, it's interesting, but I think the stablecoins could kind of bridge us there.
They could.
But even with that, it's going to take some time, because as soon as your stablecoin balance and your Bitcoin balance are right there next to each other, and you're like, well, my stablecoin balance always stays the same, but my Bitcoin balance keeps going up in terms of cost, the price. Well, what if I had a button that said, oh, let's just price it in Bitcoin. Let's flip it around. Oh my God, my US dollar balance is going down. Mm-hmm. What's that? Why? And I mean, just get people thinking along that line, right?
It could help, like all the points you're saying, but it could also be another multi-decade, multi-century trap where there's a small group of people that create the money for free and everyone else has to work for it. You can see that push kind of going on right now where Bitcoin is not a cryptocurrency, but instead it's a digital asset, right? The point that Bitcoin's an asset, it's not a currency. So the stable coins, stable, isn't that ironic? Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Stable coins is just a centrally controlled cryptocurrency that someone creates for free. It's not backed by energy like Bitcoin. It's not permissionless, decentralized. All these things are permissioned. So it could help us see the value difference between a stable coin and Bitcoin, but it could also just be a trap that now we're trading the dollar, a centralized system, for an even worse centralized system. I think the education is really a big deal. And, maybe the war, we could talk about the war with Iran. Maybe that is a big thing where people see that when we have unlimited money and people can create money for free whenever they want for any political reason, that enables war. Where Bitcoin really puts a cost on war, where there's only 21 million, it's limited, it requires energy to create. So people are less likely to come up with reasons to go to war because now they can't create money for free and get rich by going to war.
Yeah.